سلام بچه خوش آمدید and welcome to this Sunday streaming of Las Plumas decimos سلام خوبی. Are you guys alright? امیدوارم که خوب باشید. I hope you're all alright. My name is Plumas and I'm gonna be your reading host for this evening because as maybe you don't know this, but I normally stream on Thursdays. I know I do. But you can tell by my voice that I'm still a little bit like fighting off the last waves of a very stupid and ridiculous cold because I'm feeling perfectly. But my voice was a little bit affected and on Thursday I couldn't stop coughing. And that we can all agree that is not the best thing for a reading loud session. But now I'm fine. I mean, I'm better. I'm definitely not feeling horrible or terrible. Like there's just the stupidity that makes me sound like I'm talking like this. So there's no difference between this and this. There's just no difference. But you can see Lulu on the screen. I'm going to just move him a little bit like to the right, to my right. And, so this is what we're gonna do. At least, well, my voice is not been the prettiest ever, but it just does the job. And I did not want to postpone this because in the following weeks my streams are gonna be like a little bit bumpy. Not bumpy. I'm gonna attempt to do live stream once per week if I can. But life happens. How about you? Have you had a good week? Happy to hear that you recovered. I am recovered. That's the thing. I'm not sick. I've never been like properly sick. As in, I don't know, with a fever, with a serious back pain or throat ache or something. No, it was just a cold, a regular, very normal cold. I have my venom glass with me because I like to be hydrated all the times. In this one specifically. And then I have a mixture. I was smelling it, like a bit, sniffing it before starting. And this was a funny one, the one I'm drinking, because I didn't purchase this. This was a gift by a friend of the family. So lovely. So thank you. Thanks to her for bringing this present, this mix of leaves. And I believe it's green tea with a lot of stuff. But here's a trick. I smell pineapple. And pineapple is not listed among the different ingredients this mixture is composed of. So that gives me two options. A, there is some pineapple here and my nose is just as sharp as a knife and they just didn't mention it for whatever the reason. Or B, there's absolutely no pineapple in here and the cold has affected severely my nose perception and my capability of distinguishing different odors in this world. That was such a bunch of complicated words I definitely didn't know how to use. But, I saw you resubscribe, No Soy Rose. Oh, that is so sweet. Thank you so much. And level 2. No other than level 2. Thank you so much. You're just a gem. You are just a gem. So thank you so much for being there. Thank you for the support. And as always, thank you to my patrons. My patrons make my world go around and they make this happen. Oh, hell. That was such a poor idea. Oh my god. Piping hot. So my patrons, thank you to my Tir Murshid and Ajdad specifically. They are amazing, all of them, and I cannot thank them enough for being there. Hello, Nefelotus. I'm so glad to be here. I saw all 24 parts in 2 weeks. Oh my goodness. So you binge listen to the Shāh-nāmeh. That is perfect because now you're gonna help me summarize everything we've read up so far because it's been a while since we last read. I don't know how long it's been, but it's been a while. So for some reason, for some reason my Streamlabs appears not to be working in updating like the status of the followers and stuff. That's alright, don't worry. Patreon. Yeah, you can always support me on Patreon if that's what you want. That helps me a lot because this kind of content takes a lot of time and effort and a lot of love in being created. And with your support, I can do these more often and just in an easier manner. If you don't want to join the Patreon but still want to be connected, I'm dropping off of almost any social media platform. I'm not joining Mastodon like a lot of people are doing. I'm just, social media is not for me. But you can join our Discord server. It's completely free. And we have a lot of fun there. I'm very happy with the Discord channel. We're still like, we're moving things slowly but steadily. And my community is amazing. So if you're not on Discord with us yet, I invite you to come. Just sit, have a chat, a tea with us, and enjoy, because my community of Butcher is the best community ever existed in the entirety and surface of Earth. I'm gonna take. Oof. All right. Okay. So I do smell pineapple, but I don't taste pineapple. I think I just wanted to have pineapple in it, just to prove that my nose is not completely broken up. But it's a nice mixture. And there's a very lovely mug I wanted to show you. In here it says in Gallego, which is one of the Spain official languages, it says video games and literature, because I was invited to participate in a round table on a topic about role-playing games, and I love beautiful things, and I love this mug so much, and it's just a nice present, so yay. Okay, so today we crock my reading knuckles. Today we are continuing the reading of the Shāh-nāmeh, and oh my god, Butcher, oh my dear lord, oh my dear demons, you have no idea the bumpy ride we have ahead of us, because drama is just unfolding as per usual in the Shāh-nāmeh. And if you remember properly, we are just gonna locate ourselves, because I am aware that it's been a while. So first thing is first, the king of kings at this moment is Kaikavus. Kaikavus is sitting in the throne of Iran and rules upon everything. You know, you've listened to me ramble about this book, that I'm not the biggest fan of Kaikavus, because he just cannot take two steps in straight line and without, I don't know, throwing himself into a puddle or something like that. He does so willingly. So Kaikavus sits in the throne of Iran, and he thinks is the most brilliant idea and the best way to spend a Sunday afternoon is invading Mazandaran. That is a disaster and goes south so quickly. He ends up being captured by Divasepid, which is one of my favorite characters in the Shāh-nāmeh ever. And Rostam comes to the rescue. We've seen the whole arc, the narrative arc that corresponds to the Hat Khan, which means the 7 labors, the 7 trials, the seven endeavors Rostam has to go through in order to become a hero. I say this every single time I take out this book, but I'm going to repeat it because I think it's important. Rostam is the most important character in the Shāh-nāmeh. This has nothing to do with me liking him more or less. It's just he is one of the most important characters. And as I always mention, if there was a protagonist of this whole book, it would be Rostam. That's completely aside of my feelings towards him, which again, you know, if you listen to me read. A lot of Harana. Yes, definitely. A lot of Harana is in the horizon. And after completing the Hat Khan, defeating Divasepid and his armies, Rostam helps Kaikavus once more to establish the kingdom of Mazandaran as part of the territory that Iran governs upon. And after, it seems that nothing is wrong anymore. Like, they've finished fighting, the war has been exhausting, draining, and they're tired, so they celebrate. They just celebrate and enjoy the fact that they've survived. And Rostam goes back to his house in Zabolistan with his father. Hello, Nana. Hi. Don't worry, you're perfectly fine. I'm going to start reading right now. Sorry, I'm going to do that like all the time. Tea helps a lot. And so now, what we're going to do is follow not Rostam, but Kaikavus. What is Kaikavus going to do with this newly incorporated territory to his dominions? I don't want to spoil anything because I'm not gonna, but oh my god, this kid is already 30-something, but my god. Anyway, I'm gonna let you enjoy and discover by yourselves. Kaikavus decided to tour the borders of his kingdom. First, he traversed the marches of Turan and China, and then, preceded by the blare of trumpets and the din of drums, he entered the land of Makran, where the country's nobility greeted him with tribute and presents. From there, he went on to Barbary, whose king decided to give battle rather than pay tribute, because sometimes you just don't want to give up the kingdom you rule righteously upon, just because. And so many troops were at his command that the sun was darkened by the dust sent up by the horses' hoofs, and in the gloom a man could not distinguish his own hand from the reins he held. This is something you should be super familiar with, which is the dust darkening the sky. This is one of the many metaphors Ferdowsi uses to explain and to give like a more visual image of what's going on. That is, this army is composed by a lot of men, very warriors, perfectly trained, and it's just massive. This metaphor for representing high numbers. The king of Barbary's men came forward in countless bands, surging one after another like the waves of the sea. There's a lot of people here. Gudards, the thing with the names, all right? I understand there's a lot of names in the Shāh-nāmeh. There's millions of names in the Shāh-nāmeh, and some of the characters are not as relevant, at least for what I consider you need to be paying attention to. Gudards is just one of the commanders, many commanders under Kai Kavus's command. He's one of the commanders under Kai Kavus's instructions, and you don't need to remember him. Don't worry. It won't make any difference if you remember who Gudards was or not. The names, I think, it's interesting for you to remember. I will emphasize them and repeat them. That is a completely personal choice, absolutely personal, but it's just, I don't want to make this confusing, a little bit more confusing than already it is, because I understand that Shāh-nāmeh is a difficult book to follow, let alone remember all the names. So Gudards, one of Kai Kavus's commanders, saw their forces, readied his mace for battle, and with 1,000 armored horsemen, flourishing lances and bows, bore down on the enemy troops. The onslaught broke the center of the enemy's line. Their troops were routed and their king fled from the battlefield. Brief battle. They didn't stand a chance, to be completely fair. When the old men of the city saw how the wind of battle blew, they came contrite and wretched before Kavus, saying, "We are your humble servants, and we bring the tribute we've collected to our king, grateful, obedient to your rule. Behold, in place of coins, we offer jewels and gold." So this is our tribute. This is us paying you in order to stay alive. So please do not massacre us. Kavus made much of them and forgave them and conferred new laws upon them. Then, to the noise of cymbals, chimes and trumpets, he proceeded towards Bactria and the Caucasus. There's a difference between Kai Kavus, not much, as you will see, but there's a difference between Kai Kavus when he starts ruling and when he is now. Because after all the suffering and all the difficulties he's gone through, the younger version of Kai Kavus would have fought and possibly killed all these noblemen just because they dared to oppose him. However, at this point, Kavus has, learned his lesson a little bit, just a little bit. And he's not doing so. He forgives these people and establishes himself as the new ruler, and then he marches on to the next province, which is Bactria and the Caucasus. He's touring. He tours the borders of the kingdom, and now he is in Central Asia. When the news reached these areas that King Kavus was approaching, the nobles came out to greet him, bearing presents and tribute. From there, he went on to Zabolestan, where Zal's son, Rostam, was his host. The king stayed with him for a month, spending the time either feasting with music and wine or hunting with hawks and cheetahs, which is, let's just stop for a split second in the fact that these people hunt with cheetahs, the same way that nowadays you see people hunting with dogs. These people train cheetahs to hunt, which I think is fantastic. And also, it must be very difficult. I don't know, I never trained anything. I mean, my family used to own a dog, and that's the furthest that I've gone. I don't know how training a feline of that size would be like. But all right, so feasting, hunting, drinking, dancing. But there's always a but. But in the rose garden, a thorn appeared. When all the world seemed ordered at and at peace, dissension rose among the Arabs. If you remember, the Arabs were the people that hosted Zahog's lineage, the Serpent King. Oh, Salam Deirar. Oh, that's all right. A rich nobleman raised a standard of revolt in Syria and Egypt, and the people turned from Qaboos. When the king learned that the rival for the throne was challenging him, the thunder of war drums rang out and preparations to leave Zabolistan begun. Yeah, because Qaboos is still with Rostam. Qaboos led his army to the seashore, and there innumerable boats were built and launched. 1,000 leagues the army sailed and made landfall where the three countries met. On the left there was Egypt, on the right Barbary, and ahead were the waters of Sareh, beyond which lay Hamoveran. Important kingdom, this one. News reached these areas that King Qaboos had entered the waters of Zareh, and the three countries joined their armies with one another to the Barbary coast. The combined forces of these allies covered the deserts and mountains. The lion had no place for his lair. The wild ass found no way through the plains. The leopard of its crag, the fish in the depths, the eagle in the clouds. So basically what we are seeing here is a massive display of military forces. There's not even space for clouds or flying creatures. There's just no space. The earth is packed and covered with soldiers, both mounting and marching. All were displays. There was no room for any animal in all that mighty mass of soldiers. When Qaboos disembarked his men, mountain and desert disappeared. The world seemed nothing but swords and armor. The very stars drew their light from glittering lances. It's a wee bit upsetting because this is going to be a battle, but still, I think it's a beautiful, powerful image. The mountains shook with the blare of trumpets, the earth trembled beneath horses' hoofs, and such a din of drums thundered out that the land of Barbary seemed to have become one enormous army encampment. There's a lot of people, basically. A tucket sounded from the Persian lines, and different people among the sons from Qaboos, like Gorgin, Farhad, and Tuz. People from the army of Qaboos, commanders, captains, heroes, leaders, rode forward. Farther down the line, another military leaders also rode out. Their lances dipped in poison. They let their reins fall slack on the horse's neck and bent low over the pommels of their saddles, and they charged the enemy. Why are they doing so? Because they're helping the horse moving forward. They're giving a faster movement to their horses. And let me explain why. Horse riding is difficult as it is, but riding up, like standing on the stirrups, is so difficult. But that allows your horse to move quicker because the weight is much better distributed. If you are going downhill and you lean forward, you've bent forward like these people are doing, you're helping gravity to give your horse a little bit more speed. So you're getting advantage over the person you're charging over. And, sorry. I have a little wounded here. And that is just another way that Ferdowsi has to tell us how skilled and experienced these riders are. Because it's a very difficult thing to ride standing on your stirrups. Take it from me. And I've done this. It's so difficult. Let alone charging and fighting as you are maintaining that position. The Parthians used to do this, and this is one of the reasons they could just move and change their targets so easily and so fast, because when you are sitting, it's much more difficult to move when you are, on full gallop than if you're standing. It's just, and I'm going to stop there because I could spend like millions of hours speaking about horse riding, but this is the reason why. So they charge. They lead the charge. War cries and the clash of arms resounded. Qaboos attacked from the army center, and his troops followed close behind him. The world was darkened by their dust, and crimson blood rained down, spattering the ground as thick as dew, until it seemed red tulips had sprung between the rocks. Okay, the tulips. Those Iranian in the chat, please do not say anything, because if you know, you know. But Shāh, this is not the first time we are gonna hear about these red flowers. The red flowers are very important. They make me cry so often when I read this in the Shāh-nāmeh. But just don't forget about the red blooms. And please just remember the red blossoms, because they are super, super important in the very near future. This is a brutal image though. Like, it's raining blood, and I think sometimes we don't realize how strong and intense some poetic images are when we are listening to a story, because we have sadly normalized violence so much that we are incapable of actually imagine what a rain of blood implies. Like, there's a lot of people dying around there, and rivers of blood are just invading the battlefield, which is very upsetting and very strong at the same time. Sparks sprang from the clashing blades. The ground washed away with blood, and the three armies were so overwhelmed by the Iranian forces that they fell back in utter confusion. This is a disaster and a massacre, if I must say so. The first to capitulate was the king of Hamaveran. He flung away his sword and massive mace and sent a courier asking for quarter. He said he would deliver weighty tribute in the form of horses, weapons, thrones, and crowns if Kai-Kavuz would not lead his army against Hamaveran itself. Basically, this person knows at this point he has no chance. He does not stand a chance. So he rather protect his people from the fury of the Iranian army than just, die out of spite. And having heard the message, Kavuz answered that as his former enemy now acknowledged Kavuz's crown and authority, he would live safely under the Iranian monarch's protection. He's learned a little bit, just a snitch, tiny, it's so tiny. It's so the petiteness, the petiteness of the amount of knowledge that Kavuz has accumulated after living and going through everything he's gone through and lived is horrifyingly petite. But there is something. There is something to work with. Then someone, then, it's a then more than a but. Then someone took Kavuz aside and said, "My lord, this king has sired a daughter." I don't need to laugh. I don't want to laugh. Okay. I'm laughing because I know what's coming. It's just that Kavuz makes Rostam seem like a reflexive person. Definitely he does. Yeah. And that should tell you. That speaks volumes on how we consider Kavuz in this family. I apologize. I'm going to start again. Then someone took Kavuz aside and said, "My lord, this king has sired a daughter, lovely as a spring, more stately than a cypress tree, and crowned by hair like black musk, like a noose unbound. Her tongue is like a dagger, lodged between lips sweet as sugarcane. She's a queen, arrayed like a paradise, a paragon, as pure and splendid as the vernal sun." What a beautiful sentence! Fit for a monarch if one should decide to choose this moon-like beauty as his bride. Kavuz's heart leapt up within his breast. He chose a wise and subtle man from his retinue and ordered him to go to the king of Hamaveran and say from him, "Those nobles who best understand the ways of the world seek to be allied to me, since the sun draws its light from my crown and the earth is but a support for my ivory throne, and all who are not protected by my shadow wither away." Kavuz Azizam. See, this is exactly what I was referring to when I said that the amount of wisdom accumulated in Kavus's head is petite, reduced, tiny. The sun draws its light from my crown, and the earth is but a support for my ivory throne, and all who are not protected by my shadow wither away. Are you serious? Kavus, you talking about yourself? These are things only your mum is allowed to say about you. Now, I seek an alliance with you, washing my face with the waters of reconciliation, because you are so reflective and so wise. I have heard, rumor has it's come to my attention that you have in Purda a daughter who is worthy to be my wife. Ojo, not our wife, my wife. For she is pure in her lineage and pure in her body and praised in all cities by all people. And if you find a son-in-law like myself, the son of Kobat, then the light of heaven has indeed treated you with favor. A courier hurried to the king of Hamaberan's court, warmly and with eloquence greet the king on behalf of Kaikavus and delivered the message with which he had been entrusted. When he heard the courier's words, the king of Hamaberan's heart grew heavy with sorrow and foreboding, and to himself he said, "He is a sovereign, well conquering and victorious, but she's my only daughter in all the world, and to me she is dearer than life itself. But if I slight this courier and treat him contemptuously, I have no means to fight the war that will ensure. It is best that I should close my eyes to this effrontery and allay my heart's anger." He's basically swallowing his pride. Then he said to the courier, "These desires of your king have no end, O Azizam, you have no idea to what extent that is correct. He asks of me the two things I have held dearest, and there is no third to equal them. He has taken my wealth, that was the proof of my rule, and he takes my daughter, who is the delight of my heart. My life is mine no more, and I resign to him all that he demands." In sorrow, he called his daughter Shāh-nāmeh, and Butcher, make sure you learn her name, because this one. He called his daughter Shāh-nāmeh to him and spoke to her about Kavus, saying, "An eloquent messenger has come here with a letter from the king. He wishes to snatch from me my heart, my rest, and my life, because he asks for you. What do you say to this? What are your wishes in the matter? What is your opinion?" And Shāh-nāmeh answered, "Since we have no choice, it is better not to grieve at this. The Lord of all the world can take whole countries if he so wishes. Why should you grieve at an alliance with him? This is a joyful development, not a cause of sorrow." The king of Hamaberan saw that Shāh-nāmeh was not opposed to the match. He summoned Kavus's messenger and motioned him to a place higher than that all his courtiers. Then they drew up the alliance according to the rites and usages of their religion at the time. Let me tell you about this sentence, okay? Because one of the things I love the most about these reading aloud sessions, I love everything about them, but let me explain. Something that I really enjoy is that I am allowing you not only to get to know the mentality of the moment, which is the 11th century in Iran, but also I am allowing you to meet Ferdowsi himself and the way history and records were made. Ferdowsi, in some other parts in history, as pure history as we understand it today, he's not that versed or eloquent, and sometimes he just overlooks or oversteps certain topics because he either doesn't want to fill more pages on that, or just he doesn't feel like to, or he believes it's not important. So in this case, he does not know exactly what religion these people had. I guess he imagined they were Muslim. By the way, sometimes he speaks of other rites, but at the same time, he knows that it's impossible for them to be Muslim because how history works and because they know and they have dates and calendars and they just study things like that. And this is supposed to happen in ancient time. Therefore, he has no idea how a royal marriage unfolds at that time. And it just saves the day by saying, oh, they did it, yeah, they got married according to, I don't know, the customs of the moment. Don't ask me. History is not the reason why you're learning this. So they get married. Woo! The heavy-hearted king, he's not that happy. I mean, I don't know why I say woo, because it's not that happy. The heavy-hearted king prepared the bridal procession. 300 slaves and 40 litters, 1,000 mules and horses, and 1,000 camels loaded with brocade and gold coins, and for the bride herself, a litter splendid as the moon, preceded and followed by beasts bearing her personal wealth. The troops accompanying her were dressed like denizens of paradise, so colourful they were. The earth seemed covered by a carpet of wild flowers. When she came before Kavus, he looked at her face and saw her smiling ruby lips, her 2 narcissus eyes, her nose fine as a silver reed. Lost in astonishment, he stared and invoked God's blessings on her. He called an assembly of wise men and priests. Before them, he acknowledged that Shāh-nāmeh was worthy to be his bride. And so, the marriage was performed according, again, to their rites and customs. Now I can do this. Woo! You know what word I'm going to say. But hello, Serapis. Something makes me suspect that they are not going to be happily forever, right, Ferdowsi? Nothing lasts. Happiness doesn't last 2 pages in this book, and we know this already. But the king of Hamaberon was sick at heart and sought for some way to improve his situation. After a week had passed, on the 8th day, he sent a messenger to Kavus, saying, "If the king will come as my guest to my palace, the country of Hamaberan will be honored to entertain his splendor and majesty." He secretly hoped to find a way both to regain his daughter and to escape from paying tribute. But Shāh-nāmeh realized what her father was planning, some kind of violence during the festivities, and she went to Kavus and said to him, "This is not advisable. Hamaveran is not a place for you. He's plotting to harm you during the festival, and you should not place yourself at his mercy. All this is on my account and will be a cause of sorrow for you." So she's warning him. But Kavus Aziza, Kavus had no regard for the opinion of anyone from her country and did not believe her. Can we just address for a moment to what extent this is wrong? In how many ways this is wrong? Not only he does not trust a person from her country, from Hamaberan, also, we should add to that he doesn't trust his own wife. And this is like, dismisses the comment and just does not believe her. He's warning you. Kavus, she's saying it to you. There's no riddles. There's no complication. There is not, what's the word I'm looking for? Convoluted speech. There's not a convoluted speech being delivered to your very limited brain, which has only one brain cell, going on and about, screaming in panic because you are just willing to end your life at many, many different moments. No, she's telling you straightforward, don't go there, my father wants to kill you. And he's like, nah. In a very Iranian movement, he's like, if you know, you know. He and his nobles set off for the promised festivities in Hamaveran. Of course they do. Of Of course I do. A whole city called Shāh-nāmeh had been devoted to the celebration, and when Kai Kavus entered it, all its inhabitants made their obeisance before him, scattering in his path jewels and saffron and gold coins and ambergris. The town was filled with the sound of music and song, woven together like the warp and weft of a fine cloth. Seeing Kavus, the king of Hamaberan dismounted together with his courtiers, and from the palace entrance to the audience hall, trays of pearls, rubies, and gold were emptied before Kavus, while musk and ambergris rained down upon his head. Aye. The human ego, so delicate, yet so powerful. Aye. Within the palace, Kavus was seated in triumph on a golden throne, and you were so feeling it, were you not, Azizam? He passed a week with the wine cup in his hand, absolutely drunk, if you ask me. He's knocked out. He's just like drunk, fully drunk. And happy and rejoicing, and day and night the king of Hamaberan stood before him like a servant, ready to carry out his wishes. And in the same way, the king's courtiers served the Iranian nobles. And so the visitors felt safe and welcome, and had no suspicions of any harm or trouble. But these all had been planned and foreseen by the king of Hamaberan, and he sent the news to Barbari, whose leaders were of one mind with him. When the army arrived, the king of Hamaberan was overjoyed, and one night, I don't know how the army came and nobody saw them. Kavus Azizam, were you and your men so passed out that you did not realize an enormous, gigantic army was approaching? Just asking. I just need to know. Where was I? Oh yeah. One night, when the Iranians were defenseless and unprepared, trumpets sounded the attack. Kavus was suddenly seized, together with Gudars, Giv, Tuz, and the rest of his entourage. Another Kavusada, yes, we're going to talk about that. We need another word because Kavusada is such a Spanish thing. So I think I'm going to coin going Kavus, but doing a Kavus. I don't know. We need one in English that works as well. It's like this person. He doesn't know how to listen to advice. He doesn't know how to listen to anything. Be it advice, a song, or a recipe for biscuits. He just doesn't know. As we said the other day, Rostam restored the ability of Kavus to see, but not his sight. Exactly. His vision is still missing because, for starters, he never had one. This person is the king of kings. This person is ruling upon Iran. Anyway, there was in that country, in Hamaberan that is, a mountain that rose from the depths of the sea. Its peak pierced the clouds, and on its slopes was a fortress so high that it seemed embraced by the heavens. Kavus and his nobles were sent in chains to this castle and flung within its walls. Flung, that is, he lost instructions of how to listen. And common sense, that those functions were never activated in Kavus's self. Yeah, so they are hanging. They are flung from the walls, where they were guarded by 1,000 warriors. Kavus's royal pavilion was sacked, and the gold there and his crown were plundered by the nobles of Hamaberan. The pavilion itself was trampled underfoot. 2 columns of veiled women were led out, and in their midst was a litter containing Shāh-nāmeh, who was to be taken back to her father's court. When Shāh-nāmeh saw her women in this state, she ripped her royal clothes from her body and tore at her musky hair and scored her face with her nails. She wept and screamed at her father's envoys that they were dogs, and she cried out to them, "No man who is a man will praise this act. You could not chain him when his troops attacked. Hearing his drums, your hearts were overthrown. Then he was armed. His war horse was like his throne. You quailed before Godard and Give and Touz. Then was the time for you to chain Cavus. But no, you lie and break your oaths and cheat and ambush him with welcoming deceit. I will not part from him or leave his side. Though he should die, I will remain his bride. Powerful speech. Basically, she's saying that there's no way she's abandoning Cavus and that they are cowards because they did not confront Cavus when he and his army were in a state of defending themselves. No, they have to wait. They had to wait until everyone was drunk and unarmed in order to have one chance of defeating them. Because clearly on the battlefield, they just could not do it. Oh yeah, this outburst was reported to her father, who was enraged. I think I can't understand why though. Yeah, Cavus enters in like an elephant in a china shop. Yeah, he took her. The king of Hamaberan took Shāh-nāmeh at her word and had her sent to the fortress, where her husband was kept in chains, and there she comforted him, ministering to him in his sorrow and his fortune. Maybe now he would listen to you. I have no idea, but mark my words, Bacha. Mark my words. Sometimes listening to those we hold dear and obliging to their wishes can also lead to disaster. And I'm gonna shut up because I don't want to spoil anything for you. But just remember this part and remember Shāh-nāmeh. Just do me that favor. So what's happened now that again, otra vez, Cavus is in chains, trapped somewhere away from his throne. So that means the kingdom of Iran is empty of a ruler. Again. And they, of course, news spread throughout the world that the king of Iran was in captivity. Again. Many claimants to the throne appeared. Among them, do you, Acha, remember Afrasiab? Also known in this channel as the psychopath. A Turanian. We've confronted this guy already. This person makes my blood run cold. I am legit scared of this character. And so Afrasiab, of course, learns that the king of kings is trapped. And he rose himself from his life of eating and sleeping and taking his ease. And once again attacked Iran. Exactly. Pashang's son, the psycho's son, who is also a psycho. And unlike the song, he's not sweet but a psycho. No, he's just a psycho. And he attacks Iran. And by attack, I mean he destroys everything encountering his way. The war lasted for 3 months. And at the end of it, Iran and its army were routed. Many men, women and children were enslaved, and the remaining Iranians were gripped by despair. A number of fugitives made their way to Zabulistan, looking for help, looking for Rostam. Help me, Rostam Kenobi, you are my only hope, I fathom, they say to him. Iran is destroyed, Bacha, completely destroyed, burning, dying, withering with every passing day. Because Cavus refused to stay and chose being honored by a foreign king over his own safety. And let me remind you that his newly wedded wife told him so. If my speech is not as fluent, it's because I'm trying to gather the proper words in English that I want to say. Look To what extent Kavuz's stupidity has led Iran to disaster. Again! Again! It's just... Seriously, what's with this person? What's wrong with this person? How the Iranians, I know he's of royal lineage, and that I'm given to him, but clearly he's not qualified to rule a kingdom. So what do people do? The only sensible thing to be done at this point, which is running there to Zabolistan and begging Rostam for help, because clearly he's the only person who can sort out this mess, whatever this is. It's just, oh my goodness, if you think about it, it's just like Kavuz wearing Leia dress in chains changes the book of Soshoya, and Rash as R2-D2, and obviously Rostam is Chewbacca. Yes. Rostam, okay, so Rostam would be Chewbacca. I need Sariel and Umberto to rate Kavuz. The thing is, they're not rating the Shāh-nāmeh kings, but I think I'm gonna do it. What do you think, Bacha? Should I speak off and rate the characters from the Shāh-nāmeh? Because clearly I hate this person so much that I would give these one a 0. Like yes, for sure. I will think of it. I mean, I've been talking with Umberto and Sariel about this for a while, but I need to think, to properly think of it. Of course, you can expect that this is going to be extremely not objective, so subjective, that you know that the top of the list is gonna say, like, the top of the list of characters on the Shāh-nāmeh is gonna be as follows: Simurg, Zal, and Zahok. Period. And everyone else. And why am I putting Zahok at third part? Because Timur exists over all things wonderful and glorious in this world. There is her, always, the queen, the only queen to whom I bow. And then there's Zol, which is the love of my life. But Zahok is here. In my hoodie, which by the way is one of my favorite hoodies in the world, because this is from one of my favorite bands ever. Do you know? I don't think you know this band, and I would be so proud if you did. It's alright if you don't. Okay, so... Oh my god, Kavuz, what did you do? Now that I'm thinking of it, don't you Bacha think that somehow... And I know, this is not a canonical thought, because if anything, the Shāh-nāmeh is a very Manichaean book. It's very much oriented towards good and evil. There's no grey area in here. It's epic literature and is a nationalistic epic. Please take nationalistic with like just a pinch of salt, quote unquote. But basically, I know what I'm going to say could not be transported to the thought of the time because of the poem and its circumstances. But don't you think, judging from today's perspective, don't you think that maybe Dibasipid was making the world a favor when he snatched Kavuz, deprived him from his sight, and just locked him in a cave? Just food for thought, for your consideration, because I do believe the same that I am willing to admit that Zahok was not right, but he was not terrible. I think the Divasipede had a point. He was just enslaving stupidity and ignorance. I can't stop criticizing Kavuz. Okay, so back on track. A number of Iranian fugitives, made their way to Zabolistan, where they entreated Sal's son, Rostam, to please save the country once more. Again, saying, "You are our refuge, our last hope, our one protection now that King Kavuz is gone." Alas, Iran will be destroyed, a lair for leopards and where lions will flourish there. Our land will be a wasted battleground where evil kings will triumph and be crowned. Please, Rostam, please, please. Lotfon, come to aid us. Lotfon is please in Persian. Divas Appeat seem not to bother anyone and only came to help, or is it just me? No, I am there. Like, just post, I'm gonna do that too. Post a tea glass on the chat if you agree with Nefelotus, because I definitely do. I definitely do. And Divas Appeat was just defending his territory. Because the Iranians, under the not so illuminated mind of Kaikavuz, they marched upon Iran and they attempted to conquer Mazandaran, and the Divs were living there like no problem. They never represented a threat for Iran because they were just enjoying themselves living up in the north. Have you been in Mazandaran, Bacha? I haven't, and I regret that so much. But when I was in Iran, I could not go to Mazandaran for visit because it was either Mazandaran or Yazd. And Yazd was my top priority. I don't regret it though, but I know when I go back to Iran, I need to go for a trip on Mazandaran because I need to see the land of the Divs in there. Lot of fun. It sounds similar. I'll give you that. Nafalatus, you do not speak Persian? For some reason, I thought you were either from Iranian background or that you spoke Persian. I don't know why. You never gave me that information, but that's how my mind completes information when she's deprived of it. See, you're Iranian. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I was, yeah. I'm gonna high five myself because at that point I stood correct. Okay, so back to the letter. Not to the letter. There's not a letter. There's this mass amount of fugitives knocking on Rostam's door. Please, save us from our Lord's stupidity. Please do. And here something happens that I like because Rostam, he's definitely not my favorite character whatsoever. But I understand. I've been able with time to cherish some moments he has and to appreciate and value some of his traits because he's just a brute, but he's not a monster. He's a way better person than Kavuz is. And this is my personal opinion only. But I think as a character, Rostam is much more pure. It's like he's just like a very big boy, a very young but big and sturdy and strong boy, but his heart is extremely pure. Yes, of course, he has an ego the size of Shah Abbas's mosque, but he has been given reasons for believing he's the best on the land. He has not been stopping listening to that since he was a very, very, very young kid. So, and this is why I'm saying this, because when Rostam hears of the tale of what's happened in Iran, and when he sees all these people at his doorstep, completely destroyed and demolished both physically and psychologically, Rostam weeps at their words. He cries with them and he understands and acknowledges their suffering. True, he cannot do that when tearing off the ears of an innocent man, I know, but still at this point, Rostam is able to understand suffering for his own people. And that, I think, speaks of who he is. A brute, tremendous brute, upsettingly brute. But he has his moments. Rostam wept at their words and his heart was filled with pain and sorrow. He cries with them, he comforts them, and he answers them. I and my army shall prepare for war, and I shall rid the land of Iran of these Turkic invaders. Turkic, not Turkish, Turkic. Even though the translation here says Turkish, these people are not Turks. They are Turks, but not Turks from Turkey. Not modern day Turkey. They are from Turkic tribes, the Turkic nomads from Central Asia, Transoxiana, and all these areas. And Arabs as well, because remember, the revolt started in the Arabian Peninsula. Rostam sent messengers to the king of Hama of Iran and secretly took Avuz. To the king of Hama of Iran, he said, "You tricked the king of Iran and went back on your oath." The oath. I knew I was forgetting something. All right, the oath. In the past. Hi! Hello, Ramanasito Nundia. Hey, cheers to you! The oath. And I'm already loving this. In the past, their word, was basically the most important thing a person had. Their honor, their word, their ability to stand and live by what they said and promised. In epic literature, multiply that per 1,000, because in the epic literature, characters and their word, when they give an oath, when they make an oath, when they give out their word, that is such a specific and important symbol and a way of representing the values they embody. For example, Rostam's heroism. You've multiplied, then in Iranian Persian literature, multiply that per 2,000 times, because Mazdaism, Zoroastrianism, has its importance in this land, even though, well, at this point, when Ferdowsi was alive, Zoroastrianism was still a thing. A lot of Zoroastrians were around, and Daghiri, Ferdowsi's predecessor, he was a Zoroastrian. And in Zoroastrianism, there is a divinity, a deity that embodies the oath. How important the word of a person must have been at the time for them to have a deity only represented that oath. And that deity is no other than Mithra themselves. Mithra, the rising sun, the Yazata that protects the oath a human gives to Ahura Mazda. That heritage carries out in Iranian literature, and not only in the Shāh-nāmeh, in a lot of literature produced during, between the 8th and the 12th century, you can see this Mazdian heritage, the importance of the word, and the word is representing these oaths, just representing a concept that was esteemed as a valuable thing to live by. And I love it because in the Shāh-nāmeh, when they mention the oath, it connects with this notion of this importance of giving your word. That Zoroastrianism, Mazdaism, and even before that, possibly whatever religion was around, gave to just the word you're giving your word. That's like the top notch. In Iran, moreover, lying was considered the worst thing you could possibly do to anyone. And why is that? Because lying opposes to Asha, and Asha is the ultimate truth. Yes, there is a deity personifying Asha. His name is Asha Bahista, and he is the most beautiful, most perfect truth. If you oppose to Asha, if you lie, is when you break your promises and when you break your oath and you tricked people and you lie, and that was considered despicable and despicable in Iranian mindset. And it's beautiful, at least it is to me, to see how these remainings of Mazdaism and Zoroastrianism were still around and still considered in an epic as important as the Shāh-nāmeh. Good words, good thought, good deeds. Khumata, Khubarta, Khubarshta. I think I'm gonna look for that. I think it's Humata, Hubarshta, Khushta, Humata, Humata, Khushta, Hubarshta. Good words, good thoughts, good deeds. Everything starts with a good thought. Everything, absolutely everything starts with a good thought. So Rostam says, you tricked the king of Iran and went back on your oath. To stoop to such rushes is not the way of chivalry. Either you release the king, like now, or prepare to do battle with me. You're dealing with me personally, baby. But the king of Hamaveran, apparently, he has not heard of Rostam. And he replies, Kai Kavuz will never descend to the plains again. And if you come to Barbary, your welcome will be swords and heavy maces. The chains and prison that hold Kai Kavuz await you too. I and my army shall confront you. This is how we deal with invaders. I mean, yes, he has a point. They were invading Hamaveran, but still, we're talking about Rostam here. A lot of butts in this. Yeah, I know. And a lot of butts being kicked soon. If I need to be honest, I believe what happened when Rostam received the reply was that he was on cloud nine, like over the moon with happiness, being like, whoa, yes. If the king of Hamaveran had replied, oh yes, I'm very sorry, I apologize, here, have your king, we surrender, please don't kill us, he would have been disappointed, because if we know something about Rostam, is he enjoys the brawl and the battle. So, in response, Rostam gathered an army, while, cracking his knuckles, gathered an army together and took it over sea and dry land to the borders of Hamaveran. There, he set about plundering the countryside and all the land ran with rivers of blood. What this person is doing to Hamaveran, I honestly don't want to know the details of. News reached the king of Hamaveran that Rostam has settled Rash and was laying his land waste, and that this was no time for delay. He led his army out from the city to confront the Iranians, and the bright day was darkened by the dust. See, again, the darkening of the sky. But, however, nevertheless, seeing Rostam's massive weight and height, and the great mace he carried on his shoulder, the king's troops' heart failed within them, and they fled back towards the city. The king sat with his counselors and asked for 2 young men to go as couriers to Egypt and Barbary. The letters they bore said that the 3 countries were close and had always shared in joy and misfortune, and that if they came now to the aid of Hamaveran, there was nothing to fear from Rostam, but that if they did not, Rostam would eventually bring disaster on their heads too. And honestly, he's not wrong. When they learned that Rostam's army was nearby, their hearts quaked with fear. But they mustered troops and set out for Hamaveran. So great was their number that there was not a space on the plain where they were drawn up for an ant to walk. Seeing these forces, Rostam secretly sent a message to Kai Kavuz. My lord, the kings of 3 countries have risen against me. And if I fight their forces, they will be routed in such utter confusion that they will not know their heads from their feet. That is how strong he's going to punch them. But this war must not have bad consequences for you, my lord, and from such evil men we must expect an evil response. The throne of Barbary is nothing to me if its capture means harm to my king. See? He has some sense in his brain, at least a little bit more than Kavuz has, for sure. Basically, Rostam is dying to massacre and just vanquish from the surface of earth the armies of Barbary, Hamaveran, in Egypt. But he knows that in the heat of the battle and in the heat of the moment, that would mean that they could kill Kavuz. And that's not what Rostam means, because Rostam is humble in a way. And hear me out. I know that it's not the typical humble. He's not humble about himself, but he's not ambitious. That was the word I was looking for. He's not ambitious. He doesn't want a massive kingdom to rule upon. He doesn't want riches. He doesn't want territories or slaves or horses. But the only thing Rostam wants is to serve his king, because one of the values Rostam is embodying is loyalty. He's loyal to the extreme, and we will see that as the story progresses and as we follow Rostam through his life, we will see to what extent this is true. Rostam is loyal to death, if necessary. And that's something I value from someone that, when heated up, cannot just put two and two together. He just cannot when he's angry. The courier heard the message and took it by hidden ways to Kai Kavuz, who answered, "Do not concern yourself about me. It was not for me that this world was created, and thus the heavens have turned, mingling poison with sweet draughts and war with peace. The world's creator is my support, and his greatness and benevolence are my refuge. Give Rash his head, and do not leave a single one of our enemies alive, in the open or in hiding." Now, as always, Kavuz learned when he is, covered in multiple chains, carrying multiple kilos of chains on himself, he becomes humble and says, well, the world was not created for me. When just a few pages ago, he was saying that the same sun drew its light from Kavuz's crown. Anyway, he just gives the order to his killing machine. Kill them all. And when hearing those words, Rostam prepares for battle. And this is where we're going to stop. I feel it's a very, very good place to stop. I know, the cliffhanger. And, oh my God, Bacha, if you could only know what's coming, because I do know this. All right, so you know how there's a lot of battles in the Shāh-nāmeh, there's a lot of shenanigans and comings and goings, and sometimes the only consequence a battle has is for the King of Kings to change, for someone to die in order to have a new king coming into scene. But trust me, believe me, please do, that this one is going to have major consequences for the narrative of the Shāh-nāmeh and for the plot. And I'm going to stop there, because if not, I'm going to say something and I don't want to. But thank you just so much for joining my reading aloud session, my favorite streams ever. And as you already know, because I say this so much, the main reason I opened this Twitch channel was for me to read and to share the Shāh-nāmeh with you. I love this book. It's really beautiful to me. Like comments like this one they got. You know that when you Iranians talk to me and say things like that and say, oh, you're so passionate about this book is my life. This book has saved me from so many things. It was the starting point of my specialty. It was the starting point of my PhD, because my thesis was originated here in the Book of Kings, and I honestly believe this book should be known much more than it is. So in my little corner, I will try to make my little corner of the world, which is this little window on Twitch, the place where you can come for comfort and some readings of the Shāh-nāmeh, because I know the book is harsh. I know the book is just basically coated in blood and guts and treason and upsetting things and tears. This one has been literally washed by my tears, but it has so many beautiful things inside, so many beautiful episodes and characters and values we can learn from and just take with us into our lives. Also, how am I not going to share this with you? I am getting excited too much. So thank you so much, Bacha, for coming. Thank you to my patrons, as per usual, for just being there, being my support. Thank you for you two sticking around, and I shall reshare. Apologies for my voice. It's behaved quite well, I believe. For these readings, yay! For these readings, cheers to you, Bacha. What I was saying. Oh yeah, I was saying that if you want to join our Telegram group chat, you can do that in there. If you want to join our Discord server, I invite you to do so, because my community is the best community ever existed, and they are just fantastic, and we have a great time on Discord. And yeah, just come by, come to see us, say hello, and enjoy a cup of tea, of course. And but ciao, I will see you next Wednesday, but that will be in Spanish. So yeah, I will see you next Wednesday, and we're gonna talk about Zoroastrianism, because you, lovely Wachal, want me to talk about Zoroastrianism, and not just about Zoroastrianism. I mean, I beg your pardon. We will be talking about the beautiful Amesha Spenta, first in Spanish and then in English. The excitement. Oh, okay. Something I wanted to comment on as well is that, yes, I'm gonna have a winter break as per usual, but I still don't know. It's gonna be shorter than the other one. I will be gone by the 22nd and back on that. Let me check my calendar. Yay, Zoroastrianism. Yes, of course, because actually the topics I bring here are selected by my patrons. If you are of Tir Murshid or Ashdod, you can actually vote for the content to come and to access a lot of new things and new stuff I talk about on Patreon and in the private areas of Discord. By the way, patrons, check your invoice. No. Check your feeds, because I have posted a post about a video game that I just bumped into this morning, literally. And I just wanted to talk about that and the architecture of that video game. So yeah, I'm seeing the calendar now. Supposedly I'm going to be gone like the 22nd. The 22nd is going to be the last stream. And then if things do not go wrong, or if anything happens, I shall be back on the 12th. Of January, that is. So yeah, and also patrons, keep an eye on the voting part, because we need to vote for the content of December. So that being said, Butcha, thank you so much for joining me as always. I hope you have a lovely, lovely week ahead of you. And as I always tell you, create, explore, and have lots of fun. Until we see each other next time, I bid you Khodafis!